Welcome to a new webinar series of OpenNebula webinars. My name is Francisco Piccolini. I'm the Open Source Community Manager. And in this case, we are going to talk about cloud automation in a very, very heavy way, foreseeing way. So let's see. This presentation will be by Victor Palma, which I will welcome in a few moments. But let me remind you about the webinar series that we have ongoing. In February 6th, actually next week, and instead of Wednesday, it's going to be a Thursday, we will have our new webinar about migration from VMware, and you will see how OneSwap in action in full swing, and how you can migrate from VMware to OpenNebula. And the following week, on Wednesday, back again on Wednesday, we will have the training series with Alex Petrovs, where he will be talking about basic operations of OpenNebula. And then we will continue having more webinars and training sessions in February, in March. So stay tuned. Take a look on the webpage, register, send us some love through the YouTube channel, and hope to see you in this series. I expect that everyone hears me. I'm not checking right now, but in any case, without further ado, I'm gonna welcome Victor Palma to the stage. He will be our speaker for today's webinar. Victor, welcome to a new webinar series.
Thank you so much, Fran, for the introduction. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar on multi-cloud automation with OneForm. So first, let's introduce the first question about all the topics that we are going to see in this webinar. First, let's see what is OneForm. OneForm is a new tool that we are developing here at OpenNebula to replace the old tool that we have, OneProvision. OneProvision is a fantastic tool that allows you to automating deploying resources in the public cloud, but we are investing a lot of effort and a lot of innovation in a new tool that it's going to replace OneProvision with a lot of new features and new capabilities. So regarding capabilities, OneForm, of course, is going to be based on the capabilities that OpenNebula offer to the users, like or the possibility to deploy virtual machines, application containers like Kubernetes clusters, and multi-VMs applications. All of these avoiding inventory locking, minimizing complexity, reducing resource consumption and slashes operating costs. So one of the OpenNebula key advantages is the ability to act as multi-cloud orchestrator. It provides a single control panel to manage multiple cloud providers, ensuring workload portability while reducing costs, as I said before. So it offers three key functionalities. The first one is that you can deploy any application supporting VMs, multi-VMs, services, containers, and Kubernetes cluster, as I said before. You can manage them, all of them, in uniform way from the same portal. So you can provide homogeneous layer for workload and user management. And finally, you have the possibility to manage any infrastructure. So you can deploy your on-premise infrastructure from one portal. At the same time, you manage all the infrastructure that you have, for example, in AWS, Equinix, or other cloud providers. Now let's talk about OneForm as a key tool for the multi-cloud management. OneForm leverages OpenNebula Formation, also known as OneForm, OpenNebula capabilities to automate deployments across both cloud and edge cluster infrastructure. So it provides automatic cloud deployment using Terraform and the Terraform providers of the cloud providers, and Ansible for automating the configuration of the host. In that way, the mission that we have with OneForm is to be able to deploy automatically a cluster in the cloud in less than 50 minutes. So that makes OneForm a key tool for the multi-cloud management. We want to manage. We want to give the power to the user to be able to expand their clouds very quickly on demand uh, using this tool. So first, let's see an introduction, a description, a theoretical introduction to what is OneForm. OneForm is a new tool that allows you to automatically deploy and configure new clusters in the public cloud into your OpenNebula cloud and enable us to expand our cloud by seamlessly adding dynamically all the essential components for daily operations, such clusters, networks, virtual routers, host, data stories, VMs and multi-VMs application, and all of them seamlessly supported by OpenNebula multi-tenancy capabilities from a single portal. So you can deploy on the fly all these resources with OneForm and manage them from OpenNebula. All the resources that you need for your applications or for your use cases, like for example, a cluster of 3, 4, 5, any number of hosts that you need with the corresponding networks and the corresponding data stories. And our idea is also to support software-defined storage like Ceph. So you are going to be able to deploy Ceph cluster using OneForm in the future. So I think it's very important to take a look to the two main concepts that we have in OneForm. First is related to what is a provider. Provider in OneForm is just an entity that represents a cloud where resources like host, network, or storage are allocated to implement a provision. So in other words, is where are going to where we are going to deploy all these resources. For example, AWS or Equinix will be an answer. And the second concept that we need to take a look in OneForm is a provision. What is a provision? A provision is an entity that represents the physical resources deployed in a given provider. So I'm speaking about the host or the data stories or the networks that we are going to create in OpenNebula and in the provider. So the provision is what we are going to create in the provider. So with that said, let's take a look to the main feature of OpenNebula, of OneForm. So we have here the 6 main features, but we also have some of them in our roadmap that we are going to discuss later. But currently we have for OneForm a template system definition where you can create templates for your providers and your provisions. So you can define this document in order to allow to user to recreate providers and provisions with some rules predefined by the cloud administrator. Then we have a multi-provider support that allows for registration of multiple cloud providers, so you can register at the same time providers like AWS, Equinix, or Scalable. That is the last supported driver that we developed recently. Then we have the automated cluster deployment. So OneForm automated cluster configuration in OpenNebula not only provision the resources in the public cloud in the provider, for example in AWS, but also configure all the necessary configuration in your OpenNebula cloud. Then we have the lifecycle management of all these provisions, supporting scaling operation, updating operation of these provisions, so you can automatically scale the provision in order to attend to any workload that you need at the moment. Finally, we have an extensible and customizable configuration. So we are creating OneForm with the philosophy of be extensible for the community. So we are trying to make a framework to implement all the plugin on all the providers made by the community and for developers that are interested in expand the OneForm capabilities. And finally, we also creating an API for OneForm in order to be able to create connection and integration with other third-party tools and expand and automate as well the OneForm capabilities. Now let's take a deep look to how Terraform and Ansible works with OneForm. I've already said that OneForm use both technologies in order to create all these automations, but just take a look, for example, starting with Terraform. In Terraform, OneForm first try to create all the resources in the provider. Here you can see an example using AWS. And once all the resources are created in the provider, OneForm configure the same resources, the equivalent resources in OpenNebula in order to manage them in a single way from the same portal. So for the final user, it's going to be totally transparent, the resources that they are using. They are not going to know that they are using, in this case, AWS resources. For them, they are only using host in OpenNebula and deploy VMs in OpenNebula host. This is totally transparent for the user. But for the cloud administrator, we can see how this works. OneForm creates in the case of AWS, AWS VPC, a CADR block as well, an internet gateway, all the root table configuration, and of course the instances where the workload is going to be deployed. And their equivalent configuration from the OpenNebula point of view is, of course, the same number of hosts and a VXLAN network used by the VMs for the inter-VM communication, and all the data stories in the front end for the image storage and deployment. By default, in this case, OneForm is using the local storage of the instances to run the virtual machines, but we can also configure OneForm in order to use in order to create and use a Ceph cluster. So we can expand this as much we want. Then we have the Ansible part of the project. So OneForm leverage the power of OneDeploy, that is an OpenNebula tool based on Ansible playbooks, designed for seamless configuration. And I think that some of you maybe knows this tool because we have a webinar about this tool as well, and all the capabilities and all the features that this tool provides. And it's very powerful and it's very simple to use. So we use this tool as well inside OneForm in order to cover all the configuration of the OpenNebula nodes that we are going to create with Terraform. Some use cases for this tool is first, well, of course, the automate edge cluster provisioning, where it can be integrated with OpenNebula in order to deploy edge applications such 5G networks application or distribute application like MinIO and so on. Then you can distribute, well, multi-cloud distribute applications, not only MinIO, but also storage, software storage definition as well, like Ceph clusters. And finally, we have the hybrid cloud expansion where you can extend your private cloud, your on-premise cloud to the public cloud in order to create a hybrid cloud solution in a very, very simple way, thanks to OneForm. So just take a look at to a quick demo of this tool. Uh, Here we are going to see just how OneForm can deploy using providers a provision with in different cloud provider. In this case, is AWS Frankfurt and an Equinix cluster in Amsterdam. We are going to deploy a OneFlow service application. It's OneFlow is the service that OpenNebula use for multi-VM applications, and we are going to see how this can be managed in a very simple way from the same portal. So let me share my screen. So we are going to go to the web browser, where here we can see the OneForm portal. It's very similar, or is the same that the one provision that we had previously, since we are now focused in the progress and in the development of the server itself. But we can see the providers that we have created for this demo. We have one provider for Equinix in Amsterdam. Here we can see all the information related to the provider, and the same for the AWS, where we can see that is located in Frankfurt in this case. So I've already have here two provisions deployed using the providers that we see before. Here I have the Equinix cluster for the Equinix provider, where we can see that OneForm deploys the Equinix two Equinix data stores, one for the system for the disk of the VMs and one for the image for the VMs. Then OneForm also creates public network for these for the clusters, so we can assign a floating IP to a VM in order to access to any service that we want to deploy in this cluster. By default, it's only reserved one floating IP, but we can change that during the creation of the provision and create as many IPs as we need. And we can also create IPs on demand once the provision is created. As you can see here, we can demand more IPs if we need it. And then we have here the host deployed and provisioning by the tool. By default as well, we only have one host, but we can add as many hosts as we need for the provision. So here we can see the same for the AWS cluster, where we can see that is running on the network that we have. In this case, is in a floating IP in AWS, and the host that we have inside the provision. So this is more for the cloud administrator. I mean, it's the cloud administrator that's responsible of creating and provisioning the resources that our user is going to need in our OpenNebula cloud. But an end user, a final user of OpenNebula, is going to see just this host. It's all the hosts are the same from the point of view of the final user. They only have four hosts in different clusters, as well as we can see here. We have the default cluster is the on-premise cluster, the AWS cluster, and the Equinix cluster, but all of them are managed in the same way. So we can go here, for example, in order to see more information about the Equinix cluster that is running the KVM hypervisor, and see all the information about this cluster. In this cluster, for example, we don't have any VMs running, but if we go to the AWS cluster, we can see here that we have, for example, an min.io service running. So the same VM is displayed here as a regular VM in OpenNebula, and it can be accessible as well through VNC or through SSH as a normal OpenNebula VM. So this is very transparent for the final user, but very powerful for for cloud administrator, since they have the power to expand the clouds in order to cover all the needs that they have during the daily operation. So getting back to the slides, let's finish with some closing thoughts and the next step that we are going to try to cover in this tool. So first, this tool is currently in development as part of all the innovation that we are making with the next generation of OpenNebula for OpenNebula 7.0. So it will be officially introduced alongside this version. But we are going to try in our webinars or in our blog posts in order to provide information in the meantime. This tool is going to replace OneProvision. So OneProvision will take over from the existing OneProvision tool that we currently have in OpenNebula, introducing, as we have seen in this webinar, a lot of enhancements and new features. Then we are, as I said, we are continuing the development of this tool. So we will keep expanding OneForm with the new capabilities and new features that we didn't cover in this webinar. So we are also thinking about have the option to even create OpenNebula resources from OneForm, so we can manage all the infrastructure from a single tool, like not only the public resources that we have in the public cloud, but also our on-premise resources from a single control panel. Then we are also working with new cloud providers in order to integrate them into the tool. Official providers that we are going to support, not only the providers that we currently have. And finally, we are trying to optimize even more the deployment time that we have with the tool. Currently, we are getting around 50 minutes in order to get, for example, AWS cluster running, but we want to reduce that number as much as possible. So as final comments, I would like to thanks to the IPCI project. It's the project for the next generation European platform for the data center cloud edge continuum, which is supporting the development of this tool. And of course, I cannot end this webinar without mentioning our forum. I've encouraged you to visit our forum. We have a growing community that is very active recently, and I've encouraged you to join to this community in order to give updates and news of the last OpenNebula components and interact with other OpenNebula users to grow together. So thank you so much for attending to this webinar, and I hope to see you soon, because this weekend I and other teammates, we are going to be at FOSDEM giving some talks. So I hope to see you there if you have the chance to go to the FOSDEM. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Victor. Yeah, we will be in FOSDEM this next weekend. We will be in the virtualization dev room, so take a look on the schedule. If you cannot be in Brussels, you can watch the talks online through their marvelous platform using Element and watch it directly online there. So thanks a lot. Thanks everyone for watching us. Feel free to reach out for questions on the forum. And yeah, see you next Thursday. Next Thursday that we have the OneSwap webinar. Have a nice Wednesday. Bye-bye.